Welcome to Twisted Threes. Please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you don't miss the next Twisted Stories. To support the channel, you can visit us at twistedthrees.com. Now let's see how twisted the world is today. The mystery of the Enfield Monster. One night in 1973, the two young McDaniel children of Enfield, Illinois claimed to see a weird creature lurking in their yard and trying to get in the house. But Father Henry McDaniel chalked their creepy story up to the active imagination of childhood. However, he changed his mind later that night. After being awoken by strange scratching sounds, McDaniel grabbed a gun and a flashlight and peered outside his front door. There, between two rose bushes, he saw a creature that was almost like a human body, just as his kids had described. It had 3 legs on it, a short body, 2 little short arms, and 2 pink eyes as big as flashlights, he recounted to a reporter. McDaniel said he fired 4 shots and was sure he hit the creature at least once, causing it to make a hiss, much like a wildcat's, before it ran off toward a railway embankment. McDaniel was stunned when he saw the monstrous beast jump 80 feet in 3 jumps before quickly running out of sight. The police found scratches on the door screen as well as footprints in the dirt near McDaniel's home that looked dog-like with 6 toe paths, yet no clues pointed to an unusual creature. McDaniel's sighting made the reading eagle, but it was clear most people didn't believe it was true. It didn't help that a 10-year-old neighbor faked his own eyewitness account of the beast, only to later admit that his testimony was a prank against the McDaniels. McDaniel reported 2 more sightings of the alleged beast to local cops, but he said they eventually threatened him with jail time because nobody believed what he saw had been real. But McDaniel was adamant and stood behind his scary true story. If they do find it, McDaniel said in an interview, they will find more than one and they won't be from this planet, I can tell you that. After McDaniel's public testimony about the Enfield Monster, other eyewitness claims began to surface. Monster hunters swarmed the town and at least 5 men were arrested after firing shots in the area and claiming to have photographed the creature. To this day, no explanation has been uncovered for this small-town creepy story. The disturbing story of Paula Dietz and her marriage to the infamous BTK Killer. Paula Dietz knew her husband as a caring father, church council president, and Cub Scout leader, but after 34 years of marriage, she suddenly learned that he was also a serial killer. Paula Dietz had no idea that her husband Dennis Rader, left and right, enjoyed binding himself while masturbating, fantasized about torturing helpless women, and killed 10 innocent people. For decades, Paula Dietz of Kansas was simply a bookkeeper, wife, and mother. She was married for 34 years, before discovering that her husband Dennis Rader was actually one of history's most sadistic serial killers. Everything Dietz thought she had known shattered to pieces when her husband was arrested on February 25, 2005. The man who was once the loving father of her children and president of their church council was suddenly exposed by authorities as the BTK Killer who bound, tortured, and killed 10 people between 1974 and 1991. The cognitive whiplash experienced by Dennis Rader's wife was surely indescribable. She had fallen in love with the United States Air Force veteran in 1970 and married him within months. Settling into their home in Park City, Kansas, Dietz tended to their 2 children while Rader worked as an electrical technician. Dietz had no idea that he used his skills with electricity to break into homes at night and murder innocent people while veiled with a mask. Despite a roster of clues left in her husband's wake, Dietz only discovered Rader's true identity when he was caught. Paula Dietz was born on May 5, 1948, in Park City, Kansas. Most of what is known about her only became public in wake of her husband's arrest, as she lived a rather quiet life with her family until the BTK Killer was exposed for his crimes. However, Dietz was raised in a religious household by devout parents. Her father was an engineer, while her mother worked as a librarian. After graduating from her local high school in 1966, Paula Dietz attended the National American University of Wichita and graduated with a bachelor's degree in accounting in 1970. That same year, she met Rader at church, and the two quickly fell in love. On the outside, Rader was a kind U.S. Air Force veteran. But Rader had grown up killing small animals and fantasizing about torturing helpless women, and Dietz had no idea that side of him existed. Dietz became Dennis Rader's wife on May 22, 1971, without knowing he liked to photograph himself while wearing women's underwear or indulging in autoerotic asphyxiation. Paula Dietz was overjoyed in 1973 when she found out she was pregnant, and she gave birth to her and Rader's son Brian on November 30th. Just 6 weeks later, her husband would commit his first murder. On January 15, 1974, he broke into the home of 38-year-old Joseph Otero and his wife Julie and strangled them in front of their children. He then dragged 11-year-old Josephine and her 9-year-old brother Joseph into the basement. He suffocated young Joseph, then hanged Josephine and masturbated as she died. Before fleeing, Rader snapped lurid photographs of the scene, which he kept in a lockbox he would fill with mementos of his victims, including Josephine's underwear. Over the next 17 years, Rader killed 6 more women while playing the part of the ideal family man by day. Dietz gave birth to another child, this time a girl named Carrie, in 1978. Rader loved to take his children fishing, and he even led his son's Cub Scout troop. All the while, Dietz was oblivious to her husband's secret double life. According to the Lawrence Journal World, she once found a poem he'd written entitled Shirley Locks. The poem read, "Thou shalt not scream, but lay on the cushion and think of me and death." However, Rader was attending college courses at the time, and he told his wife it was simply a draft he'd written for one of his classes. In reality, it was about the murder of his 6th victim, 26-year-old Shirley Vian. Because of Rader's excuse, Dietz thought nothing of the poem, nor did she think twice when her husband started marking newspaper articles on the BTK Killer with cryptic notes. Even when she noticed that his spelling was just as horrid as that in the BTK Killer's publicized letters, she merely joked, "You spell just like BTK." Rader was finally caught in 2005, nearly 15 years after his last murder, when he sent letters to local media enclosing photographs and details of his previous crimes. He'd kept the photos in a lockbox at home along with underwear and IDs of women he'd killed, and Paula Dietz had never dreamt of opening it. The FBI found these macabre mementos when they raided Rader's home following his arrest on February 25, 2005. Dietz was completely blindsided. According to The Independent, she told police her husband was a good man, a great father. He would never hurt anyone. But after he confessed and pled guilty to the 10 murders on June 27, 2005, Dennis Rader's wife cut all contact with him. She never wrote him another letter, nor did she visit him in prison or attend any of his court hearings.